Hey, everybody, it's Mike from Here are the Watchmen. And today we're coming at you with Government Cheese. It's our show that we do with David Paxson. Today we have Mark Sutherland on. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Nice to see you again, Mike, in such a short
Yeah,
space of time.
it's very cheesy today. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about you, Paxson? I mean, tell us something.
Wow. What do you want to know?
Uh,
It's
what's life like in New York?
New York. It's getting kind of busy. It's
Yeah.
it's unique to see some of the comments here. I was talking about like Trump. There's a lot of people say, "Oh, Trump is this and Trump is that," and I'm finding that if you just ask them simple questions, they run away shaking. I had one customer. He's like, "Oh, what? You like Trump?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I haven't really decided yet. What do you think?" "Oh my God, he's a liar every day." "Really? What? Which lie?" "What do you mean? He lies all the time." I said, "Well, it should be easy to pick one then. Tell me one." "What? He ran away." I'm like, "Okay, I guess you don't have one." And then,
Mm.
well, he's a racist. That was another one I got.
Oh yeah.
Well, he's a racist. "Oh, really? Okay. Well, here he is with, Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton." I said, "Well,
Sharpton, yeah, yeah.
yeah." It's like, well, well,
Yeah.
he's been a racist since then. "Oh, okay. When? When? What did he do?" "Oh, the immigrants." "Oh, immigrants? Oh, okay. He didn't say anything about racism. He said they're terrorists." "Okay, so you want terrorists then?"
Yeah.
Wah! They run away if you just ask them to present the evidence
Yeah.
of what
Yeah.
do you say? "Oh, he's a racist." "Great, give me an example." "What do you mean he's a racist all the time?" "Okay, there should be plenty of examples then. Just give me one." And they don't have one.
No, because
"Oh, he's a
you're
liar."
asking
"Okay,
them you're
yeah."
asking them to deal with facts, David. It's
Oh,
facts and
yeah.
not feelings, isn't
And
it?
like
That's
like
what we.
Biden said, don't let the facts get in the way of the truth.
Oh, mate, mate.
Listen,
Yeah.
in our
So
little
we're going
town,
to make fun of all of them today, just
Mm.
because we can, because this is government cheese.
yeah,
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's happening on this end of the world, and it's come to a point where you just kind of say, you know what, we've expected this for years, and it's here, and thank God. I'm just looking up. Okay, when's Jesus coming? Because he said this would happen, and it's any day now. The water broke, my friends. He's coming.
well, listen, I'll tell you, we, as many of you know, we live in a little town in the mountains of Idaho. There's 3,000 people that live
Wow, there's three
in our.
thousand people in my building.
Yeah, and out of those 3,000 people, there are 250 registered Democrats, and you, you can get a hunting permit for a Democrat. So when it's season, you can go after them. But I had a
Right.
guy approach me on the street today. It was very bizarre. I was leaving. I met some guys for breakfast, and I was
Yeah.
leaving to walk back over to our new offices here, and this guy comes up to me and he goes, "Do you like Bernie Sanders?" And I said, "Where are you from?" And he goes, "Well, I'm visiting from California." I said, "Well, go back." You
I thought they built a wall around California.
know,
No?
Well,
I,
why did he come and ask you that question then,
I
Mike?
have
What
no
did
idea, man. I came out of the restaurant. I had a hat on that said "Make America." That hat you have, Mark. What is it? "Make America Suck Again." Democrat.
yeah. Vote Democrat, yeah.
Yeah. And
Right.
so he approached me, and I told him, "Go back to California. I mean, there's only 250 of you up here, and they won't admit that they registered Democrat. Not in this town."
It's scary up there.
So he was just visiting then. He
Yeah,
wasn't exploring the fact that he might be
for sure now
moving into
going home.
the area. Oh
Oh,
my
Welcome.
goodness. That is
that,
so funny. That is so funny to actually ask you well, then again he saw your cap. But
Yeah.
that's the worry, isn't it? Because we don't you don't want them moving out of California with all those attitudes, do you?
No,
I'm
I mean,
sorry, it sounds
we moved up here. We bought our home 4 years ago, and we've been living up here full time now for 3 years. And we just rented an office in town. I kept my mouth shut for the last 3 years. it's taken that long for the town to sort of accept the fact that I am now a native of Salmon, Idaho, and it took that long. I mean, people, you don't want to come up here from California spewing your California. You know, I mean,
You'd be like, where'd that guy go?
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's respect. We shouldn't laugh about these things, but it's respecting the cultural differences, isn't it? And there are huge cultural differences.
big time, big time. I mean, we're a town where owning a gun is no big deal. Wearing a gun openly when you go grocery shopping, no big deal. I mean, guns up here are not weapons; they're tools that we use to hunt and we use to protect our livestock and our dogs and stuff like that. There hasn't been a burglary here in our town. I don't know how long, like maybe 10 years. And the reason is because no one's stupid enough to break into a house because they know everybody's got a gun.
Yeah, and they know where it is and you don't.
It's legal up here to shoot them. If they come in your house, you can shoot them, you know. So, and you have to drag them outside. You can leave them right there in the house and call the sheriff, and the sheriff will be like, "Oh man, we got to clean this up," you know.
Man.
Yeah,
where's the jingos?
Yeah, that's the way it is up here. I mean, when we moved here, okay, this is
well, the other thing is that like the other day when you suddenly have got to book into a hotel because of the way the weather is and all this kind of thing. I mean, this, you know, you're dealing with the weather, you're dealing with the elements. It's you against the elements. It's a very different kind of thing. I'm not saying that in California they're not dealing with certain elements. I mean, sadly, they're dealing with some horrendous elements.
Yeah, liberals.
Hey, there's something we could talk about. So, there was discussion about people moving away from God and then all the destruction that comes. Sometimes you see a lot of YouTube videos that are like, oh, you know, when we went against Israel, this storm came, and then, you know, the storm of the century when Bush was up in Woolly Bunkport or whatever it is. Now we got all these things happening to California.
Where, David?
Kenny Bunkport.
Where's that? Where's that?
It's in Maine somewhere, and that's where like the standing president goes to vacation. Yeah, it's next to Grufunkistan. That's where they go. Anyway, but the point is it the destruction is coming because God is judging them now, or is it because he took his hand of protection off? And I think that's a cool thing to talk about, because
we're in some really amazing times right now. The stuff, and I'm using the word stuff instead of the other
things,
is happening like crazy. I mean, look at the impeachment hearings and all that stuff. But I did want to tell you, I'm going to digress. One story. When we came up here and moved up here, I went to get the car registered. So in the car, I had a bunch of guns because we were moving, right? So here, you go to the courthouse and you go into the sheriff, and that's where you register your car. They hand you your license plates right there. They don't tell them, no line. I mean, if there's more than 2 people in the sheriff's office, that's a crowd. So I go in there, and the sheriff says to me, he goes, okay, well, I got to go out and do a car inspection. I'm like, all right. So we're walking out to my car, and I said, listen, I got to let you know, I've got a bunch of guns in the back seat. And I said, a couple of them I think are loaded. And he looks at me and he goes, dude, this is Salmon, Idaho. Everybody.
That's normal.
I'm not going in your car. All I want to do is look at the VIN thing. He goes, you are from California, aren't you? I said, yeah. Yeah. So,
he's like, and?
But that's what, Mark, what you're leading up to, right? We as a country, we have abandoned God, you know, as a whole. I mean, we do have the remnant body that's growing. I mean, it's getting bigger. A lot of people coming to Christ right now. Hopefully they stay. But I mean, all of our rights as a nation are being stripped away from us. You've got this like idiot. Oh, Mark, what's her name? Oh, Alexandria.
Vortex,
Occasional cortex.
Right.
occasional vortex. Yeah,
You got her in her, like, 3
I'm
months.
an actress.
They run
I'm an
around. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, that is like right in my neighborhood. She took all the jobs right down the street from us, Mark. You remember when you were here? That's where Amazon was going. 25,000 jobs later. Yeah.
Now, and let me ask you this, David. I mean, how the heck did she get elected?
Oh, it's
Well,
real simple. Nancy Pelosi said it. It's a crazy Nancy. She said a glass of water could get elected here if it was a Democrat, and that's kind of the problem. The incumbent Republican just kind of vanished, and he had some issues. So they had like this newbie Republican against a newbie Democrat, and it's just here if it's a crapshoot, they're going Democrat.
Well, I mean,
why I'm here to shine the light.
well, it's nice to see a bartender can get elected to be an official. I mean,
an actress.
I don't know.
An actress bartender.
An
Well,
actress
that's a side
bartender.
job because you couldn't get an actor's job.
So what
What's
did
this?
you? I mean, David.
A garbage disposal? Oh.
But David, in all seriousness, and we're being serious on government cheese for a few seconds. What did she actually promise? What did she promise? What did she actually promise that got her in?
The whole, most people just, they go right down the line, Democrat, 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 Democrat. They don't even look, to be honest with you. Because even a lot of the Democrats, even the mayor, who's a bigger idiot than she is, doesn't like her. And they just vote down the line because, oh, we're supposed to vote Democrat because we're this, we're that, or, Democrats promise free cheese. And that's why we have the show, Government Cheese. So it just kind of went that way. And then people started to see what she was really all about after she got in, honestly, because she's, basically just a pretty young Spanish lady who's supposedly from the Bronx, which she's not, by the way. She was in a rich section of the Bronx, but she played it, she was Jenny on the block for a while. So,
Wait,
that's great.
David, wait. There is a rich section of the Bronx?
There is up in Riverdale, and they don't like to admit that.
That sounds as if that sounds like Lord of the Rings up in Riverdale. I mean, what is it? A load of hobbits
also
there?
next to
There visiting David. Did you go to the Bronx?
If I have to.
Right. Okay. It's that bad, yeah.
Yeah. It's
and that's her district.
That is hers, and Northern Queens, which is where I'm at.
Yeah. Wow. So she's your representative. You need to be in her office,
we don't
in her face.
Yeah.
You need to be. I didn't know that. When I was there, I would have said, let's go to her office. Let's go and have a conversation.
Leave notes, like all the people leave little notes for her, I guess, on her door.
Little sticky notes on her door. Is this a sticky note? I've never seen this.
Yeah, leave a sticky note for me, will you?
Just say I can't park. This isn't happening. When are you going to sort this out? When are you going to do this? Where have all the jobs gone that Amazon were supposed to bring in? Why were you so stupid?
I'm out here in the street. Could you pay my salary? Because I was gonna start working at Amazon.
I don't mean to be catty, guys. I really don't. I don't mean to be catty, but there is a horse down the street from our house that I have named AOC because the horse looks just like her. I mean,
and the horse also does not know what a garbage disposal is.
No.
Right.
Street stuff, just like she does, all over the place. So,
it's frightening. It's frightening. It's frightening,
it's funny.
David.
I like mini AOC. Did you ever see her on YouTube?
Oh yeah, but didn't she get threatened? Is she off now or is she back?
No, she just came back. Yeah, she said, "Yeah, screw you. I'm gonna do this anyway. What? I'm 12. Yeah. What do you care?"
Oh, well.
The fact that they were actually threatening a 12-year-old like that—that's just awful.
Yeah,
I mean, she was brilliant. Mini OAC was absolutely brilliant. Sorry, I need to turn that off. But no, she's just really, really funny. Really funny.
Was that Brad Pitt calling you, Mark?
Well, of course, Brad.
Oh yeah,
Brad's,
he needs a stand-in, right?
Or no,
I'm on the hotline.
Kanye West
I'm
was
on,
calling you, right?
I'm on the hotline. Yeah, it's okay, Brad. Just go away. I'm just talking to David and Mike. They're far more important than you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what we need, like a
Okay.
show with all of like mini us.
That's actually quite funny. That'd be quite funny.
Let's
Listen,
do
guys,
it.
what are we going to do about this impeachment thing? Is this just the biggest circus that you have ever seen?
Yes, and I think it's incredibly frightening. Actually, it's incredibly frightening because they seem to want to have this private star chamber at the bottom of the Washington building. None of they don't want anyone to go in because basically we're going to lynch him. Let's use the Trump word. Let's use the
Oh, you
word.
can't use it.
But I'm going to. We're going
It's
to
illegal.
lynch
You
him.
can't use the word lynching.
We are, because that's what you're doing.
Are you
You're
really
complete.
going there, Mark? Come on, don't hold
Sorry.
back.
What's that? What's that? What's that, Mike? I didn't
Tell
hear
us
that.
what you really think.
Come on, tell us what's on your mind.
Well, the fact is that so they want to lynch him, and it's complete and utter rubbish. I mean, do you know where Schiff's district is? You know the Schiff's district is Glendale, I think, Glendale and Burbank in California, Mike. That is where it is. He supposedly is supposed to be in the past this very sort of clever man, but various things have gone to his head because it's all about power. I'm concerned. I am concerned because I'm concerned about what they are really, really trying to do. But on the other hand, people are realizing that they've got no policies, whatever. President Trump wins, they're going to go. There's going to be a backlash. He loses, there's going to be a backlash, right? So
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
well, I don't know about. Well, yeah, okay. Maybe for Mike, he's got lots of guns. But this is rather concerning. I think when you look at it, you look at how they treated Nixon. Newt Gingrich, in regard to Clinton, was saying that I'm going to defend his rights. There's no right. They won't give Trump any rights. They don't want to give him any rights or a fair hearing. I mean, it's just absolute garbage. It's
No,
appalling.
it's a total political agenda is what it is. And,
Yeah.
folks, we don't mean to bash California. I mean, California is a beautiful state. It's just filled with a bunch of liberal pukes. That's the problem.
And I think the majority of them are just the ones in the government. I think, as I meet the people out there, most of the people are pretty cool too. It's
Yeah,
just
there are
what they
people.
do.
The governor, who's the governor? I mean, he used to be married to someone that Trump's son is dating or something like that. I mean, the Trump says, like, listen, you didn't clean out the forest. You didn't go in there and you didn't, which we do up here constantly. They clean out the forest. They get all the dried stuff up off the ground. So in the summertime, when we get lightning strikes, we don't have huge fires. But California, it's like a regular thing now this time of year. Oh, California's burning. Oh, yeah, okay, cool.
Well, but Mike, the same thing is happening in Australia because of this whole thing of the mantra of climate change. The whole thing is happening. That's why there's some terrible fires that are going on. And David, no, I agree. There's some wonderful, wonderful people in California. We know them, and people are really trying to push back to the best of their ability and stand for office and all that. And they're just fed up with the lunacy. They're fed up.
Yeah,
they're fed up.
The Watchmen.
Yeah,
I mean, there's some good people there.
Absolutely, and we're fed up. We're fed up with it. But if you tie up what's been happening with the lack of tidying up the forests in California, then you go to Australia and look at exactly the same thing. It's the same thing with this mad lunacy philosophy in regard to climate change. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's exactly the same.
Well, here's what happened up here. So California and Canada were afraid that the wolves were going to go extinct. So they introduced wolves into Idaho. Now, the wolves have multiplied, and the wolves, I know they look like sweet little doggies, and they look cute and all that stuff. They're not. They pee out in the wild. They have something in their urine that passes a disease to the elk. Right. Lots of people up here survive on elk meat. They can't afford to, go to the store and get a steak, so they go out hunting. They get an elk, and that'll feed them all winter long. but the elk are dying off because of these wolves. And now what happens is we have a wolf hunt up here, folks. I mean, okay, I know that sounds like ooh, boogie boogie, but we do. We go and we hunt the wolves to thin the pack out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people from California came up a couple of years ago and decided to protest. And of course, they weren't exactly welcomed by
No.
the sheriff had to come out. Okay. And I think we have like 10 sheriffs here, and we have 2 local cops that, you know, I know them all. And from a good sense, not from a bad sense, like I used to. I know them all. And the sheriff comes out, and these protesters are walking down the street with their signs and all that, and they're like, "We're afraid that these people are gonna like hurt us." And the sheriff looked at him and said, "You should be afraid that they're gonna. You need to leave." You know.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I mean, we've got this agenda today of this crazy liberal mentality to, you know, climate change, flat earth, all this garbage and new age stuff. And what's happening is, as David mentioned earlier, no one's looking to God. No one's looking to God anymore. What do you think, David?
Yeah, and it's just it's a shame. It really is. But he said this would happen. You know, people will be lovers of selves. They won't even it won't even acknowledge God. They'll be willingly ignorant, which seems to be a topic over the last couple of days, being willingly ignorant. And they don't acknowledge that God made the earth and it's coming out of the water and this whole history of how we were created. So they don't have any respect for him, you know. And when he says they're willingly ignorant of the creation, it's an insult to say, well, everything got here by accident. So they're insulting God, saying he didn't even exist and he didn't make this place. So they go down this rabbit hole of, well, then whatever we want, you know, and then I'm God, you know. So they've been around, you know, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, some 90 like you, Mike. And they think just because they've been around on this earth for a couple of years, that they know what's going on. It's like, well, how did the earth survive for thousands of years without you? All right, that's amazing to me that we actually survived this planet. So, but the Bible talks about that, and they go in, and I think to address my comment earlier was, it's not God actually pouring out his wrath, because that's in Revelation. That comes out after the church is removed. Then the wrath comes of God. Now it's just him simply saying, okay, you don't want my protection? He takes his hand of protection off. And then all of a sudden, the devil's got free reign on you. And you don't believe in God. So he's like, my hands are tied, you know. I can't help you because you don't believe me and you don't ask. So all the stuff that's happening is coming down because of people say, well, there is no God. And they says, well, okay, if there's no God, then I can't help you. And here we are.
But here's the other thing, Mark. I mean, a lot of people say, well, I pray every day. Well, you know what? Sometimes you need to shut up and listen. You need to listen. I mean, you know, so it's not a one-way conversation, folks. It really isn't. You know, Mark, you touched on something. Coach Dave, I interviewed Coach Dave yesterday, and that interview will be up here on, I think tomorrow. But he said it well. What he said was, all hell's going to break loose if Trump is elected, and all hell's going to break loose if he's not elected. So we need to prepare. Okay, I mean, it doesn't matter either way. It's going to get crazy. I mean, you know, David, in New York, what is the feeling there about the upcoming election?
They keep trying to get everybody out to vote. Okay, and honestly, they had an early vote. New York's like, hey, early vote, everybody get out, this and that and the other, and it turned out to be 1% of New York City actually went out to vote. And I was there. I went over to the voting booth, and there's like a dozen of them sitting there, and I'm in there with 2 other people. I'm like, are these people serious, or they just want to listen to their social media and say, oh, he's a racist, oh, he's a liar, oh, he's a.
So when, David, when was that? When was that in 2016?
Last Tuesday.
What? To vote for what? To vote for what?
It's the midterm elections.
Oh, for the midterms.
Yeah,
And no
so
one.
AOC was on the list, plus a
Right.
lot of other smaller stuff. You know, the 2-year senators,
Yeah.
things like
And
that.
no, right. And no one's turning out to vote. And then people wonder why it's a complete mess.
Yeah.
You know, why isn't outside? Why isn't outside going out to vote then?
Listen,
And I count myself as an honorary American. You know, why isn't it happening?
I think they're afraid.
the apathy in the United States
Yeah.
is huge. I mean, you've got people who haven't voted in years who just bitch and complain about everything that goes on in our government. And it's like, well, who did you vote for? Oh, I didn't vote. Well, then shut up.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I am having recently come back from the States. I am very concerned about that. I'm very even though I'm talking to people who are awake, and we can talk about the Federal Reserve and various other issues, and this whole global government push. But I am concerned how sleepy people are from observation. If you when you're going or walking around, going to various restaurants and all the rest, and you just think, are you engaging, or you're just watching NFL or some sports event on TV, and are you? This is just bread and circuses. I mean, just if you take like and then you'll laugh at this. So you take our election, our referendum in 2016 to leave the EU, which is the biggest turnout really in recorded history politically for us, and of course we still haven't left. So you can have this vote democratically, and we
voted, Mark? How many people?
17,410,742. I always miss out the 10. So they voted with a majority of over 1 million. You're absolutely right. You press my number button. But this is deeply, deeply concerning. Deeply concerning to me, because if we don't leave, democracy is finished over here. Our country's done. And then over there, you've got so much. You've got far more space, far more land, far more freedom. And people don't seem to value that. They just seem to, well, it doesn't matter. Well, it is going to matter. It's going to matter big time. If they didn't, if you don't have an electoral college, then California, Washington, D.C. and New York will just decide whatever president you're going to get for infinitum. Why don't people seem to care? They don't seem to care.
I mean,
you know what? What's really interesting here, I'm finding this. Obviously, New York City is jam-packed with immigrants. I find the ones that come from the socialist countries. You got a lot of immigrants that are from Venezuela, and they're like, "What the hell is wrong with these people voting for socialism?" They come from like Russia and the Ukraine, and they're like, "You don't understand. You want to go back?" He says, "Let me send you over there for a year. You'll be begging to come back home." And without fail, all the immigrants are like, they love Trump. Okay, and they're like, yeah, he's fixing this. We want to get rid of the socialism. I can't believe that's even a consideration. We know what it's like.
Well, you need to get out there and interview these people, David. I got to get my latest film out there about communism out there. But you need to go out there and interview them. Then this sounds fantastic.
That's an idea.
Other people over here as well. There are other people over here. There's a book I need to read. Exactly the same. Exactly the same as where they've come from. It's not, they just think, oh, isn't this going to be nice? We just spread the wealth around. No, there's going to be an elite. It's not their wealth, and there's going to be an elite, and there is an elite, and it's going to control what you do, what you say. You won't be able to own a car. You won't be able to do this. You won't be able to travel here. We're going to restrict you. We're going to have this China social tab in that says, right, you've been a good boy and girl. That means you can fly abroad or do this, that, and the other. This is real. And you and I, and we've said this over the last few days, and then we say, you just get called a nutter for even saying any of that. This is true. Project Dragonfly or whatever. I mean, this absolutely incenses me.
I'm going to ask you guys this question. What country has more oil than all of Saudi Arabia, has more diamonds, more gold, more precious metals and gems than any country in the world? What country is that?
Haven't we just mentioned it?
You did. And the fact is, the country of Venezuela is in shambles. Why? Because they voted in socialism. Here's the deal. In the United States, you got all these young kids in college, and God bless them. I mean, they barely know how to clean themselves up after they go to the bathroom. But, you know, I mean, they're out there and they're buying this socialism thing. Someone needs to show them like what's going on in Venezuela and tell them like it's not America's fault, because that's what they're being taught. They're being taught that it's our fault, the condition that that country's in. BS, folks. BS.
I don't know how that happens.
Yes. And the other thing is you can vote socialism in, but you have to shoot your way out of it. I mean, that's the crazy thing. I mean, just look at history. Has there ever been a communist or a socialist country that has succeeded and excelled? Okay, maybe China. But other than that, I mean, they've got like, I don't know, 50 billion people or something like that. So, you know, of course.
Well, when you consider how they did it, they devalued the money so they can steal all of ours, and then they hijack things.
Well, I don't want to sort of touch on a touchy subject, but if you then look at the Department of State in the 50s over there in the United States, and then you realize that you had people on the inside that were quite willing to let Mao come in and to then have communism come into China. So that's another subject for another day. But Stefan Molyneux has done a fantastic presentation of that for a couple of hours, and other things, you know, this nefarious stuff. But Mike, you are absolutely right. The good news is, which is really interesting, so you look at the leader of Brazil, the new leader of Brazil is a conservative. Then they've just voted in a new leader in Bolivia, a woman who I believe is also a conservative, who is then being sworn in on a Bible, I believe. So she had quite a big Bible there. So as a Christian, so this is really interesting as well. We don't talk about the pushback that has gone on, you know. But you're absolutely right. People are forgetting history. I
mean, Christians need to get off their what's the word? Help me out here, guys.
Eschatology backside.
They need to get off their eschatology and get out there and have their voices heard. I mean, they really. I mean, because a lot of what goes on in the remnant body is people just sitting on the couch, bitching and moaning, complaining about this and that, you know, and blah, blah, blah. But they don't ever leave their house. And it's like I say, I mean, Mark, we've seen it with some of the interviews we've done with Field. Yeah. There are cowards with keyboards out there. And all they do is sit at a keyboard and bash all of us that are telling the truth. And that's all they're cowards. Come and say that to my face. You come in my office right here and tell me to my face. You know,
I think you're being paid by Soros, actually.
I think, and I'm not giving out my address because I really don't want to see it. But
well, give him a local Starbucks, and you can come over there and do it.
We don't have
and they can hang out in there.
You kidding me? We're lucky we're king.
But you've just touched on a very important issue, which is, and again, when we're discussing this with other friends of ours as well, the truth is the truth, and we're realizing that people don't want to hear it. That's what I find very difficult to deal with sometimes. Here's some facts. No, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that at all. My life is fine. Everything's going to be fine. Well, when all the ATMs are turned off, what are you actually going to do here? What are we actually going to do?
Supermarkets are closed.
If the whole, and I'm talking to myself because I feel profoundly unprepared for any of this.
That's normal.
So, so that's going to happen. The whole financial sector is collapsing. We know that Deutsche Bank is in serious trouble, but we just keep not talking about any of that, and the repo market where you are. So we don't want to talk about that. Well, we've got to talk about that. That's why we're trying to talk about it, because we want to help protect you, so that it's not going to be a shock of what's coming down the line. And you could argue that where David and I are, we're not in very good secure places, being in the middle of the cities. So we all got to come and see you, Mike.
Yeah,
so
move up here. My town is not on the way to or from anywhere, and it's great. I love,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
It-
and I've talked to, we just observed, Mark. I mean, you brought it up. I mean, we just observed Veterans Day. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know that if I went to the high school here and asked a kid, do you know what happened in Vietnam? They'd be like, where? What?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know what's going on in our country, but we're forgetting to learn from the past, right? I mean, and it's sad. And you know, I mean, you know, you in a big city, yeah, you're a target in a big city. Fortunately, God graced Jeannie and I and led us up to this little town that we live in. There's like 3 ways into town, and I've talked to the veterans here, and they said, well, if it gets crazy, we already know where we're going to blow the mountain, and no one will be able to.
all 3 ways.
Wow.
It's like this, Mike. It's not the end of the earth, but you can see it from there.
Yeah, we're at the 45th parallel, man. We're there.
Yeah. Do you know what you were saying about Vietnam and going into schools? Here's a scary thing. I saw I think there was an article in the Guardian today, that left-wing paper of truth. But there was an article about that New Zealand was looking at voting in officially in regard to euthanasia. Now, that's a really, really convenient way of rewriting history, isn't it? That's a convenient way of bumping off a load of people that are going to vote. So
What?
now,
Well,
for us, sorry, Mike.
I said, I can think of some people I'd like to euthanize.
Yeah. I
And
hear
they
you.
don't necessarily have to be
I don't want
old.
to end up being Field McConnell's cellmate. So we're gonna,
No. But the thing is like, so for us, we're about to have this election on the 12th of December. So suddenly we've seen a group of youngsters come up who then be qualified to vote. And then, of course, sadly, other people have died. So when you've had this, who voted to leave the EU, so then when you've had a discussion in papers going, well, if we have another referendum, we've got to wait for all these people to die off. I mean, what an appalling thing to say. So now, because tied in with climate change, and now we've got overpopulation, what we're going to do, we're going to have things like the Liverpool care pathway in the past, where we're going to bump people off when they get into hospital and put them to sleep and all this. So now we're going to officially put euthanasia, we're now going to step forward about getting that to legislate into the policy of a particular country, which New Zealand may be looking at. This is, you can't make any of this crap up. You really can't.
New Zealand of all places, right?
yeah, well, okay. The liberals here in the United States, and of course, it all started in California, want to lower the voting age to like, I don't know. I mean, they want to lower it to like 10. I'm just kidding. I mean, they want to lower the voting age. And the reason they do is because all the schools are pushing this socialist liberal agenda. And they know if they can lower the voting age, they'll get these kids to vote liberal. And you know what? I mean, look, I think Mark, the voting age in the United States is 18, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so when I was 18, like, I didn't know anything about anything. I mean, and so it's bad enough that it's 18, you know? I mean, you know, you can vote, you can serve in the military, you can carry a gun in the military, and you can shoot people, but you can't go have a beer. I mean, think about that. Like, it's so insane, and I'm not advocating anybody going out and having a beer. Okay, I'm not.
The principle.
It's a good thing, but it's a principle. And you know, I mean, that's where our country has gone. I mean, we're like a train that's going off the rails.
And then you can drive at 16, can't you? Over here, we can't until we're 18. We can't vote. We can't vote until you're 18. Over here in the UK, they want to take the voting age down to 16 because that was a discussion over, we'll let all these people vote, we'll have another referendum and we won't leave the EU. I've never heard so much garbage. So over there, it's the progressives are saying, let's just completely and utterly rewrite the constitution. In fact, I'll tell you what we do, 1787, we'll just rip the whole thing up. And over here, No, it's 18 and above. What do people know at 18? Well, with great respect, some people think they know everything, which they don't. I'll just
I
sort of
did.
clarify that. Yeah, well, yeah. So you're right. I mean, it's this manipulation, but Mike, I come back to it. David, I come back to it. The apathy is deeply, deeply concerning to me. The apathy in the midterms last year. People have got to get out and vote in 2020. And Coach Dave is absolutely right. Either way, there's going to be trouble. Either way. Because if they go, right, we didn't get what we want, so now we're going to cause anarchy, you know. And then you've got that. I mean, she's over here at the moment. I mean, I was having an apoplectic fit to think that Hillary Clinton is over here now to discuss yet another book. So the first book was what happened. Well, I'll tell you what happened, love. You
Nothing
lost.
sold.
So
Yeah.
so go away. And
Well, that
now
one's
you're
not
back
selling,
with,
so she's gonna write another one.
that's right. So now you've written another one called Gutsy Girls, and I think you've left out Margaret Thatcher out of that book, I believe, which is rather interesting. So because your sales may not be doing that well, you then have to push the fact that I may be running for president again, because I've said in an autobiography that I'm entitled. I'm entitled to be president of the United States. No, you're not entitled to do anything. And as Mark Stein said, look, when in 2016, you know, Jeb Bush, go away. We've had your younger brother. We've had your dad. Go away. Hillary Clinton, go away. We've had your husband. Just go away. And Trump dealt with those. But this is just absolute madness of arrogance. You know, people would just vote for her. Don't they know what the woman actually stands for, what she's done, all the scandals around her? I'm on a rant. I'll now stop.
Well, no, I've got to ask you though, Mark. Is she going to go out to dinner or a date with that prince of yours that got tangled up in?
Yeah, they're all buddies.
Well, this could be interesting because
I mean, she's
people out there trying to join the dots. People like Field McConnell, of course, and then people like Liz Krogan as well. And then we wonder why ABC are pulling things, you know, Amy Roback and all that. And then we get accused of being conspiracy theorists and liars and all this. I mean, it's just nuts. It's out there. This is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Okay. Again, I don't mean to be catty, but look at Hillary Clinton, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Would you go out to dinner with her? I wouldn't. I mean, she's a beast.
Well, it depends on which one, because there's a few of them, aren't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It all depends which one has been dragged out of the ambulance or into the ambulance. The hair doesn't seem to move, or she comes down from the block of flats going, "Hi, everybody. Hi, I'm still here. I have been dragged off to a local hospital." Yeah, it's interesting. But why she's over here? I mean, and my taxes are being paid to the BBC to interview this woman. I mean, it just drives me raving mad. You know, she's been to a Cheltenham Book Festival 2 years ago when she lost. She's now back over here going, you know, well, it's all so horrible. And I often think that if I were president, and we often think, we just thank God that you're not president.
Well, Mark,
We really do.
is she going into the libraries and doing that drag queen reading to children thing?
I know. Mike, you're being so naughty.
And she doesn't change her makeup or anything. Just goes in.
No. I really, I knew you were going to say that. I was trying to avoid that, but well done. I don't know. Hopefully, our public libraries are closed to her because of security reasons.
Yeah, we'll go with that one. Security. Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, I got to say this has been a blast, and we're going to do this again. I have to run. I've got another appointment coming up here.
Well, let's close it out this way. Instead of just being whiners and complainers about how bad it is out there, why don't we just we laugh at it, we recognize it for what it is, and we pray that we can be the light of Jesus that shines in that darkness, and we can be his hands and his feet and his mouth to go into that darkness and pull out his particular remnant from all the people that are in that swamp. Okay.
Good point.
How
Well
about
said, David.
How about this? let's let our friend from, that other side of the pond where they're going to keep Hillary. She's not coming back home, Mark. She's moving.
Yeah, you guys can keep her.
You guys keep her.
All right, take
I
us
don't
out,
know.
Mark.
Yeah, let's have you take us out with a prayer.
All right, okay, let's just pray. Father, there is no doubt about it that at various times at the moment, the world events, when we look at the news and we just think that we can be so overwhelmed by all the different things that are happening. But you have your hand on the tiller, you have your hand on what is going on, and things are going to unfold, and they're unfolding for a reason, because that's what your word says. And Father, we have a mandate to speak the truth, to bring the truth to people. Just help us in our daily lives to do that and to not hold back. I thank you personally for an amazing conversation I had with a client yesterday. And Father, we also bring Phil to you. We ask that you protect him, be with him in his cell, and be with his lovely wife Denise and his family and friends. And we just ask that you will release him really quickly before Thanksgiving would be fantastic. So we just commit all this to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
And
Amen.
come on out and meet Mark and David and myself, Dallas, Texas, March 5th through the 8th. Go to hearthewatchmenmen.com. Get your tickets before November 15th for $79. After November 15th, they go up to $129. So get busy. Go there. Come on out, meet us, and have some fun, fellowship, and be exposed to the truth. And it's really, Jack Nicholson was right in that movie where his famous line, "You can't handle the
You can handle the truth."
It's true. I mean, very true. So, David, you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Yeah, remember everybody to go to hearthewatchmen.com. Check all that out, and also go to thehiddenday.com and tell me what I need to fix over there. It's a little bit old-fashioned. You guys have an awesome day. Thanks for watching Government Cheese. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
It's time, folks. God bless everybody. Mark, thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
We'll see you all here next time on Government Cheese.